Okay, so picture this. While most of Europe was sleeping, a huge social media storm was kicking off across the Atlantic. We're talking about a chaotic series of late-night posts from President Trump that has just lit a diplomatic fire, turning a quiet night into the setup for a very, very tense week for world leaders.
It all went down on Truth Social, and in just a few hours, President Trump dropped several diplomatic bombshells, completely scrambling the agenda right as global leaders were starting to gather for the World Economic Forum in Davos. And look, this wasn't just one off-the-cuff remark. We're talking about a full-on, multi-pronged social media blitz. He went after a UK deal, he leaked private texts from European leaders, he threatened France with some serious tariffs, and even posted some provocative AI-generated pictures. But two issues in particular have really thrown diplomacy into chaos: his renewed demand for Greenland and a pretty surprising attack on a British island agreement. All right, so let's dig into that first major escalation: Greenland. Now, you might have heard this idea before, but the tone this time, it's completely different. This is no longer being treated like some proposal. It's being framed as a demand that's just not up for negotiation. The language here is absolutely crucial. When he calls it imperative for national and world security, and then claims that everyone agrees, he's trying to frame this as a done deal. He's basically taking it off the negotiating table entirely. The message he's sending to Denmark and its allies is pretty clear. This is happening. And then there's this image, which, wow, it really dials up the confrontation. You have to remember, this was posted just days after US and Danish officials had reportedly agreed to hold private, quiet talks on the matter. So that caption, US Territory S 2026, is a direct slap in the face to those diplomatic norms. It's a very public power play. So that's Greenland. But then, a second front in this whole overnight drama just popped up. And this one came out of nowhere. Trump suddenly pivots to this fierce attack on a UK-Mauritius agreement, and he's using it as a new, kind of surprising justification for why he needs Greenland. So what is this deal he's so upset about? Well, here's the gist of it. The UK agreed to hand over sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. But, and this is the important part, they would lease back the island of Diego Garcia, which is home to a super important joint US-UK military base, for the next 99 years. And you gotta understand, this was not a small deal. The total price tag for the UK is estimated to be at least £13 billion over the course of that lease. This was a massive, long-term strategic and financial decision. And this is Trump's take. He flat out calls the deal an act of great stupidity. And then he immediately connects it right back to his main goal. He's essentially arguing that the UK is acting weak, and that's exactly why the US needs the strength and security that owning Greenland would supposedly provide. But as you can imagine, the UK government sees this completely differently. They push back immediately. Their whole argument is that they made this deal not from weakness, but to secure the base's future. They claim that recent court decisions were putting their control at risk, and this 99-year lease was the only way to guarantee it could keep operating. So you have two totally opposite reads on the same situation. So you can just imagine leaders across Europe waking up, checking their phones, and bam, the diplomatic scramble is on. And they're all facing the same really tough question. How on earth do you respond to a series of public, aggressive posts from your most powerful ally? And here we get a really rare glimpse behind the curtain, because Trump himself leaked this text from French President Emmanuel Macron. You can literally see Macron trying to cool things down, saying he doesn't understand what's happening and appealing for them to work together. Let us try to build great things. Think about that. A private appeal between world leaders just put out there for everyone to see. Now, the broader public response started coming together from a few different angles. The UK's Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, actually got on the phone with Trump and then publicly said that alliances are built on respect, not pressure. Meanwhile, a group of 8 EU nations put out a joint statement, warning about a dangerous downward spiral. And as we just saw, Macron offered to host a G7 meeting in Paris to try and sort all this out. And the response from the US administration to all this European diplomacy, well, it was pretty much a shrug. The Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was already in Davos and openly taunted them. He sarcastically called their plan to form a dreaded European working group their most forceful weapon. It really just shows the dismissive attitude the administration seems to have toward these more traditional diplomatic approaches.
So all of this whole overnight storm of social media posts, the threats, the diplomatic back and forth, it's all converging on one place, the World Economic Forum in Davos. What's usually a place for wonky policy talks has suddenly turned into the main arena for a high-stakes international standoff.
And in what you could call a final power move, President Trump has announced that he will be calling a meeting of the various parties on Greenland, right there in Davos. He's not waiting for an invitation or for someone else to set the agenda. He's forcing the issue on his terms. So this is where we're at. It all boils down to one massive question. As all these leaders finally come face-to-face in the Swiss Alps, can good old-fashioned diplomacy actually fix this? Or is that dangerous downward spiral into a full-blown transatlantic trade war now just inevitable?